How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Many Interpretations of, the series where we will eventually cover every type of extinct animal too. This time, it's finally a pterosaur. Our first pterosaur, and what a cool one to start off with, Oldketquatlus, the giraffe-sized Asdarkid. This one's going to be a cool one. I was glancing at all of the different media depictions that we have to look at, and there's some really cool ones here that I'm really excited to get into. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First up is On the Wing. So this is a 1986 film that kind of focuses on the principles of animal flight, and they kind of make their own little Quetzalcoatlus that I think looks pretty cool. It's really cool to see it flying through the air, and the colors are also really cool. It has a huge wingspan. It's a great depiction of the animal that is mainly focused on the actual function of the animal, I suppose. So just with that, we're off to a great start. Then we have Walking with Dinosaurs. This is not really Quetzalcoatlus. This right here is a remodeled, kind of like, not really remodeled, but just kind of like altered Ornithocheirus design. The same pterosaur that showed up earlier in the... was it Ornithocheirus or was it Tropicnothus? Hold on one second. Okay, so on the Walking with Wiki, it's listed as a Ornithocheirus, so great. Either way, this Quetzalcoatlus is a redesigned Ornithocheirus, so it does not match up to the real Quetzalcoatlus at all. Through the skeleton shape, the teeth, Quetzalcoatlus did not have teeth. It had a longer beak that was a little bit more triangular. It did have this crest that they gave it, so that's pretty cool. But the colors are pretty cool. I like the white mixed in with the black and the red around the eye and the more yellowish beak. I think it's a great color-wise. I'm just, it's definitely not Quetzalcoatlus. And by this point, I think we need to think of a nickname for Quetzalcoatlus, because saying Quetzalcoatlus over and over isn't going to work out too well. So I think I'm going to call it just Q. Q. Now, I guarantee that I'm going to forget that I decided to call it that, like halfway through the video, and I'll just revert back to calling it Quetzalcoatlus. We'll see, though. But after that, we have The Land Before Time. I do remember seeing this fella. This was still a point in time where I was watching The Land Before Time franchise. And I remember this fella. Did not know he was a Quetzalcoatlus. See? I already forgot. I didn't know he was a Q. But he's pretty cool in The Land Before Time style. He's very thin, got a very long, thin neck, a decently short beak. The colors are pretty, flat, but he is larger than the other pterosaurs that are shown, which is cool. Not many pterosaurs are as big as Q, so that one's very fun to see. But after that, we have When Dinosaurs Roamed America. So the design's not great. It's very, very shrink-wrapped. He's very thin. Look how thin that neck is. That's something we're going to see very commonly. It also lacks some pycnofibers, which are these small feather-like structures. I think they might just be feathers, but I don't know. I don't think its beak is nearly as triangular, but the crest is pretty cool. And it's also portrayed as, I think, more so as a scavenger, which that definitely does not check out. So Quetzalcoatlus, Q, I said that first. Q is an absolutely massive pterosaur. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, giraffe size, or height, giraffe height. That's very big. And to add on to that, they were also terrestrial hunters, from what we can gather through the fossil material. As in, they would fly around looking for their prey, but then they would land and then chase after it on foot, which is terrifying to think about. It was shown off in Prehistoric Planet too, though they did show Hatzegopteryx doing it, but the same would apply to Q, because, those two are relatively the same height. And it definitely wouldn't have been reliant on something like that. It was, hefty enough that it can go after its own relatively smaller prey. And something that we will kind of commonly see is when a Quetzalcoatlus Q is eating something, it gets chased off by a TRex or something like that. And, I'm going to say a little bit more about that once we get later in the video, but just that's going to be a common theme. Then Dinosaur Planet, we have a very, very skinny one once again. The head's pretty small. The crest looks kind of cool. Very just straightforward colors, but it's just, look how skinny that neck is. Look at the lack of pycnofibers. Look at my boy. He's not doing too good. And then we have Dinosaurs Giants at Pentagonia. We get to see a Quetzalcoatlus kind of flying through the air, and this design is definitely a huge improvement. It's not nearly as thick as some of the other ones that are portrayed. It does seem to have some pycnofibers. I really like the way that the crest is set up. It looks very naturalistic, like almost like it's really layered in keratin. The beak looks pretty cool. I don't know if it's long enough or triangular enough, but all around I do think that this is one of the better ones that we've seen so far. Very pointed wings, though. That's something we will see a lot of. A lot of times you'll see pterosaur wings like really pointed at the end. What they actually had were rounded wings. I just thought I'd bring that up. I don't know. Then we'll move on to flying monsters, and this one is also an improvement. It's not nearly as skinny, still skinny. I think the wings are also folded in pretty well, but honestly, the way the pterosaurs fold in their wings has always confused me, so I'm not really going to talk about that too much. But what I really like is the crest. I like how massive it is, and I like the bright red colors in contrast with the rest of the animal. I also really like the way that the beak looks. So that is another improvement on the design. And then we're going to go back into stylized territory with Dinosaur Train. Now, it's right here, guys. The Dinosaur Train's right here. In the T-Rex and the Alamosaurus video, I got comments asking why Dinosaur Train wasn't included. It was, in both of those. It's right here too, right here. If I see one comment, then I won't do anything about it, but yeah. Anyway, we get it portrayed with a pink coloration with more blue wings, the yellow beak, of course. The beak is shorter, the neck is very skinny. It's a very skinny animal, but again, this is a stylized version of the animal. It's also very weird to see it stand upright like that, like almost like it's a human. It's like that whole thing where it's like, oh, they think they're people. Very cute. But, you know, I like stylized designs like that. Next up is Dinosaur King. Very cool blue coloration mixed in with the yellows. The crest looks really cool. I do think that this fella does show up in the arcade game rather than the anime that myself and I'm sure many others used to watch. This looks really cool, and I think that it matches up to Quetzalcoatlus pretty good. Like the skeleton shape matches up pretty good. I think it lacks the pycnofibers as well as being a little bit shrink wrapped, but fairly decent. Then the last day of the dinosaurs, along with Clash of the Dinosaurs. They used the same model for both of those. Of course, it was done by the same folks. And yeah, no, this design isn't too bad. I think that a lot of the proportions are pretty off. The head doesn't look bad. I really like the red colors and the crest, but it's very thin. We're back to the very, very thin neck, basically like a snake neck. And I think that a lot of the way that it flies isn't too great. Another example of a Q getting chased off by a T-Rex, because gotta happen, it's the code. Next up we have Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs. We get a bunch of Qs chasing after Buck and the possums, Crash and Eddie. Colors look really cool. This whole skeleton shape is very fun in that whole stylized way, just filled with teeth. Once again, Quetzal, Q did not have teeth. You know, they gave all of the pterosaurs in this movie the teeth. And in Dino Dan and Dino Dana, I think I was able to find a few different designs. Like we have this one right here, which looks really cool with that awesome looking crest. And I believe this one, which is a little bit more altered with some brighter colors. The crest also looks awesome. I think that they both capture the look of Q pretty good. And then in Dinosaur Revolution, we do see it for a quick period of time as it kind of flies by, so I can't really make too much out of it. It does seem to be a bit shrink wrapped, but you know, I think it probably checks out as a Q. And then in March of the Dinosaurs, we get a really cool looking one with these really cool colors, especially with those patterns on the neck. I'm a big fan of that. I think the skull looks good, the crest looks good. Probably a bit thin and does lack some pycnofibers, but still really cool. Then Walking with Dinosaurs 2013, very good. I really like the way that this one looks. I mean, again, suffers from some of the same issues. Like, I think it's very, very thin, very shrink-wrapped, but it does have things like pycnofibers present. The skull looks really good. Probably just a little bit stubby in the beak area. And I really like how bright red that crest is. So this is probably one of my favorite ones that we have on here. I've had this little project recommended to me a lot, and that is Dino Trucks. And we get this Quetzalcoatlus. We get this Q. Oddly enough, it looks really good. It has a very basic, like, basically it has the shape of Q. Like, almost down to a T. Like, the wings look really cool. The crest is present. That beak, probably a bit short, but hey, no, that's really cool. That's really cool. I like that one. And then in Leaps of Evolution, we finally take a step away from having a very worm-like neck. Look how good this one looks. I mean, maybe those wings are a bit too small, but the colors look so cool. These dull browns. with the bright yellows and that bright red. That looks awesome. I think that one is a pretty good design overall. Then we finally move on to the Jurassic franchise. I think that all of you will remember that Q made its grand debut in Jurassic World of Dominion in 2022, where it attacks a plane. Now, Q was certainly bigger than like a small plane, but not bigger than this guy. They did scale it up for the movie. It is quite a bit bigger than the real life Q, which is saying quite a bit because Q was already massive. But design-wise, I really like it. I think that they did a pretty dang good job at portraying the animal. They have pycnofibers present. I really love the blue crest in stark contrast to the wider body and just the way that beak looks. I think that it looks really good. It's not perfect. It's not really one-to-one to, like say the skeleton of Q, but I think that they did a fantastic job with that, and I really wish that we got to see it more in the movie. But that one's definitely up there in terms of my favorites. Aside from that, we do have a few that show up in some Jurassic games. Firstly, in Jurassic Park 3, Park Builder, with a really cool contrast in the colors. You got the red head with the slightly duller colors, and the whole shape looks really good. I think this one's a great one. And then in Jurassic World, the game, we have this one right here that also looks pretty decent. Of course, in true Jurassic World the game fashion, you get to level it up, and it gets more and more exaggerated features. Look at this fella. Look at that crest. Look how Pteranodon-like that crest is. Very bright colors overall, and it's very fun. And then we have this one in Jurassic World Alive, which the most notable thing for me is how brightly red that crest is, just in contrast with the rest of the body. I like those contrasting colors, So that one is also awesome. And of course you do get it in Jurassic World Evolution 2 through, it's based off of the Dominion one, so it has the same basic design to it, but I love some of the colors that you can give it. That's my favorite part about it. And then in Amazing Dino World, we get pycnofibers, we get the crest, we get a thicker build, not nearly as thin. All around, pretty good. And then Primal. Now, Primal is certainly a fun show. We get the Quetzal pretty early on as it's kind of trying to sniff out Spear. In design-wise, it kind of looks like it's a mixture between a Quetzalcoatlus and a Pteranodon, because you get this crest back here, which is very Pteranodon-esque, and then you get this crest on its head, which is very Q-esque. It's also massive like Q. But the colors are really cool. It has this reddish head mixed in with some, I think, oranges or yellows, as well as the duller body. It's also got a mouthful of teeth. Very primal, very fitting for the world of Primal. But I really like its stylized look. And now, we get to Prehistoric Planet and its portrayal of Quetzalcoatlus. Love it! I love it in this show. The skull looks great, the crest looks great, the body looks great. It has pycnofibers. It's not nearly, it's decently thin, but it's not as thin as some of the other ones that we've seen. It doesn't really have a worm neck. We've seen this a couple times before too, but it also has they make honking noises, which just feels correct for Quetzalcoatlus. And probably the most notable part about them is when they face off against the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Probably one of my favorite moments in the entirety of the show. I love the way that it was portrayed. I know that there are some people who are upset about the whole portrayal because of the outcome of said portrayal, with many comparing Quetzalcoatlus with seagulls. Quetzalcoatlus and seagulls. So I have some gripes with that. Now, T-Rex is a lot of things. T-Rex has an incredibly powerful bite force. It was an incredible hunter, forward-facing eyes, a great sense of smell. It was a huge, bulky animal. But one thing that T-Rex was not was invincible. Now, don't get me wrong. I love T-Rex. Any excuse to show up this figure, I just got it. Isn't it cool? But I love T-Rex. However, just because it was kind of built like a movie monster does not mean it was a movie monster. And carnivores, predators, they have a hard life to live. And one thing that is a problem for predatory animals is getting injured. A tiger breaks its leg and there's a chance that it won't be able to hunt. Sometimes it can, but not always. The same is true for T-Rex. Now, I'm sure many of you know today that for the most part, for most predatory animals, most of their hunts fail. And a lot of that can end with the animal getting injured. The same was true for Tyrannosaurus Rex here. Could it easily bite into a Quetzalcoatlus and it would be game over from there? Absolutely. However, that does not mean that every situation went like that. They even presented it in a little bit more of a I guess, more decently way by having 2 Quetzals drop in to kind of just hound the Rex and get it away from the kill. Because as David Attenborough mentioned, if it gets poked in the eye, you lose your eye. You lose one eye, you lose your depth perception. That's not good for a predator. You lose both eyes, well, you're blind, and that's it. You're not going to eat anymore. As I said, T-Rex was not invincible. So I don't think that every time we portray it, we should show it as this unstoppable force that will just demolish everything in its path. There needs to be layers to this Shrek onion. And I love the fact that they did show it like that. Just the T-Rex acting like an animal saying, basically kind of just saying, I mean, not literally saying, but basically saying, this ain't worth it, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna come back. Love that. That was awesome. They even had them keep their distance because they realized that they were in danger too, but they were hungry enough to challenge for this kill. It was just, everything about it was, I think, done very well. And it's just, you know, sometimes I see some people complain about it. I don't think it's nearly as widespread. I've just heard it a couple of times, but I know that it is present in there. Anyway, I'm sorry for that little bit of a ramble. At the end of the day, I really like Prehistoric Planet's Quetzalcoatlus. Back at it again with Dinosauria. We do get a few unfortunately perished Quetzalcoatlus. Their designs do look great. They have a little bit thicker necks with pycnofibers. The crest is present and pretty big. The beaks look really good. Just the whole nature of the episode, you know, is just an unfortunate situation that we find them in. But their designs do look really good. Now this documentary is coming up, and I haven't really mentioned it on the channel yet, but we have TRex, which is the new dinosaur documentary. In case you don't know, it'll be releasing in some IMAX theaters as well as some museums. You know, when you go to a museum and sometimes they're like playing a movie, yeah, this would be one of those movies. But we do get some shots of Quetzalcoatlus in said documentary, and they're portraying it as a terrestrial hunter, kind of like going down, trying to capture these little baby tyrannosaurs. Its design looks really good. The neck looks good. The beak looks good. The crest looks good. I mean, the wings are probably a bit more pointed, and the same was true for Prehistoric Planet. Like, that design wasn't perfect, of course, but all around this one's very good. You know, for the most part, I'm really liking the designs of this documentary so far, and I'm really excited to see it. Then the game that I am pretty sure is not in active development anymore, Saurian. So they do portray the smaller species of Quetzalcoatlus, which is this one. I can't remember the name right now, but there are 2 species that we know of. The one that is mostly portrayed is Northropy, which is the larger giraffe-sized species. It's by far the most famous, a large part, I'm sure, because of its size. I don't think that the smaller species was named until a few years ago, though, so that also has something to do with it. But its design looks really good here. I mean, I say smaller, but it's still, look at that. Still taller than him. It's pretty terrifying. The beak looks good, the neck looks good, the colors look good, the pycnofibers look good, the crest looks good, everything looks good. You notice I kind of fall into a rut with these videos. Like, I have a few things that I look for the most, and then I kind of just list them off like that sometimes. I'm a little bit too predictable, I'm afraid. Then we have Path of Titans. Of course, the amazing Quetzalcoatlus mod, which I love. I think a lot of good work was put into it. The way that it looks is fantastic. A lot of the colors that you can give it are fantastic. The sounds are really good. They're more honking. I also love the clicking of the beak. I love that sound. The way that it can walk around and also run on ground so you can like chase after your prey like the terrestrial predator that you are. Perfect. Everything about it is just awesome. And I just love the work that they did while, you know, making it. Then Paleopines. This one looks fantastic. That looks a lot like Quetzalcoatlus right there. Love this one right here. The blue colors, the blue crest, and the blue tip of the beak, which is new. And the black beak. Like, the rest of the beak is black. That's cool. The rest of the colors are really good, and everything else matches up very well. It also does seem to have pycnofibers present. That is an incredible design that is incredibly accurate and also stylized. Then prior extinction. I do believe that Oldketqua is planned for prior extinction. And if these, I think these are the designs. If these are anything to go off of, they're very good. These colors in particular are really striking, and I really like them. The neck is a little bit thin, but I don't think it's really too thin. The beak looks great. The crest looks great. Everything just looks great. Isn't this cool? Like, at the end of the list, we're getting just a lot of really overwhelmingly positives on these designs. That's awesome. And then in Arc, we do get our own little Quetzalcoatlus, or as it's called in Arc, Quetzal. But I really like the colors. Look how blue it is right here, and those yellows on the wings. The beak is pretty short, but I love how massive that crest is. In terms of stylized designs, I think this is a very good one. And Look how massive it is. I think I've seen people, like, I think I've seen videos of people, like, making bases on them or something along those lines and just flying around with them. That's awesome. That's a fun way to use the animal in the game. And I do reckon that that is all that I have selected. Now, of course, I did not include every little thing for a few different reasons. A lot of the designs kind of were pretty much the same, as well as the fact that a lot of designs that I couldn't really find. So I couldn't really get a good idea of the overall design. But the ones that we did have, I think, are very good. I think that this was an incredible list to go through, and just a really cool pterosaur to start off with, or to have as our first pterosaur. I had a lot of fun making this video. I am still at the end of recovering for my wisdom teeth extraction. It took me a little bit longer to heal, because as you probably guessed, I did get some people in the comments mentioning that, you know, like, it seems I'm getting them extracted pretty late, and that's true. Most people have them extracted at 18. I am currently sitting at 24, and I got them extracted. And the reason why I had to get them extracted is because they're going in a whole bunch of stupid areas that would have made my life a lot more miserable. So they had to come out, and because they're in a lot of stupid areas, that's making the healing process a little bit more different. Like, I got, like, a really weird one right here. This side hurts the most right now. This is for anyone who's, you know, wondering, because I did get some really nice comments of people wishing me a good recovery and things like that, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, recovery is going good. I'm finally able to talk without my jaw feeling really stupid, which is something that was preventing me from recording the videos, so we're getting there. I'm just sticking to the ibuprofen, and we'll get there. But I do hope to get videos back onto a better track. We are behind right now. I did have some more videos planned. I've been barely keeping up with the TikToks because they're shorter, but the YouTube videos have certainly suffered in this time of woe. But rest assured, I will be getting more of them out, and again, I hope to get onto a better schedule after all of this. I'm just happy that I finally got to record this, and I hope I can get this out on time. Anyway, that is pretty much all I have for this one. If you guys have any other designs that you know of and you want other people to know about them, be sure to let us know in the comments. You know, that stuff's always fun. But thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.